of the things that we love to do here on this channel is to try and predict the future. And sometimes my predictions about WWE are so good and so spot on to the point that people actually accuse me of having the script. But the fact of the matter is that more often than not, my predictions are just hot garbage. One of the long-running series that we have here on this channel is that we try to predict future WWE Premium Live Event match cards. And right after Clash of the Castle, we tried to predict the entire Money in the Bank 2024 set of matches. So in today's video, right before Money in the Bank 2024, we're gonna review those predictions to see how good or terrible they were. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am confident that you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And in case you're watching this before Money in the Bank, come on by one of the live streams, either on Twitch or on YouTube, because we're going to be doing a live watch party of Money in the Bank with thousands of wrestling fans. So if you want to be able to geek out with other wrestling fans in real time about Money in the Bank, make sure you stop by. I'll put the links in the description. All right, let's jump into it. My first prediction in the video was Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega for the WWE Women's World Championship. Now, when I made this prediction, there were hints that we could potentially get a feud between Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega, but it wasn't something that truly had materialized yet. If anything, it was more of an LWO and Judgment Day feud. But it did eventually materialize to a point where we did get a match between Zelina Vega and Liv Morgan. It just didn't happen at Money in the Bank. Frankly, I feel like I deserve at least half points. This happened the week before Money in the Bank in the go-home episode of Monday Night Raw. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't know why this wasn't on the Money in the Bank card. I feel like there's plenty of room to include a 12 to 15 minute match between these two, considering their match on Monday Night Raw was genuinely fantastic. Not only was the match very good, but I feel like the build-up to the match was also very good, with some fantastic promo segments involving Liv Morgan, and more than anything, fantastic A++ promo work from Zelina Vega. If you want to compound things even more, Liv Morgan is one of the most must-see personalities in WWE TV right now, with what's going on with Dominic Mysterio and all of the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley, so it feels odd to me that this didn't make it onto Money in the Bank, considering there's only 5 matches. I feel like you could have easily had this match on the card. You could have had Dominic Mysterio once again accidentally help Liv Morgan, just like how he did on Monday Night Raw. You could have just had exactly what they did on Monday Night Raw, but have it on Money in the Bank, and it would have felt like an appropriate WWE Premium Live Event match. It's odd that this didn't happen at the actual Premium Live Event. I understand that we already have a women's Money in the Bank ladder match, but it feels weird to not have at least one of the top women's world titles on the show. In every single Premium Live Event since WrestleMania, at least one of the titles has been defended on a Premium Live Event. This is the only one where neither of the top women's world titles is on the line. And I think it's weird because you had a feud that was worthy of it, and you had a match that ended up being good enough to be on the Premium Live Event. I don't know if you can continue to build on top of this for this to eventually become a Premium Live Event worthy match. I feel like if you decided to not pull the trigger when it made sense at Money in the Bank, I don't think that you're ever going to pull the trigger on it, which is a shame. I feel like these two absolutely earned their spot on a Premium Live Event. The other match that I predicted was a match for the World Heavyweight Championship. I thought that we were going to get a rematch of the Clash of the Castle Glasgow main event between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, unlike Zelina Vega and Liv Morgan, I was entirely off on this. We aren't even close to getting this. We do have Damian Priest on the show, but something that I couldn't anticipate when I made this video right after Clash of the Castle was that Seth Rollins was going to come back to the WWE. What's funny is that I made the video maybe like 6 hours before Seth Rollins showed up to come back to the WWE and instantly get a match with Damian Priest at Money in the Bank. So this video was actually ruined entirely 5 hours after I uploaded it. But with how controversial the finish was to the Clash of the Castle match, I really felt like the WWE was going to give Drew McIntyre another opportunity at the World Heavyweight Championship, and I thought that he was going to win here. I still don't think that Damian Priest is walking out of Money in the Bank as the World Heavyweight Champion, so my prediction that Drew McIntyre would take away the World Heavyweight Championship might not be happening, but I do think that Seth Rollins is walking out as the World Heavyweight Champion. If you want more details on that, you can go watch my full predictions video on who I think is going to win the Money in the Bank matches. This is where WWE gets a little bit weird and funky to me. Like, how does Drew McIntyre not get a rematch knowing how it all ended at Clash at the Castle with him getting screwed over by CM Punk? I don't know. I feel like somebody needs to contact WWE Human Resources to give us a public statement as to how it makes sense that Drew McIntyre does not get a rematch after how those shenanigans went down at Clash at the Castle. But I am glad that the World Heavyweight Championship is still being defended on the show. I still gonna go back to the women. I don't know why the women couldn't get that as well. We'll talk more about this, but at least both of these guys did make it onto the show. But I'll mention it one more time. This was entirely destroyed the second that Seth Rollins came back. I did get this one right like 95% of the way. I did predict that we were going to get a 6-man tag match between the team of Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, as well as the members of the Bloodline, which at the time were Solo Sikoa, Tonga Loa, and Tama Tonga. When I made this prediction, Jacob Fatu had not debuted in the WWE yet. He wouldn't debut for another 5 days after I made this predictions video. And we do have an announced 6-man tag match, but Jacob Fatu is lingering somewhere in this mix because they are saying that it's any of the 3 of the current 4 members of the Bloodline. Here's the thing, I don't think it can be Jacob Fatu because it's really difficult to get into Canada with priors, let alone priors that are involving violence, and that's what Jacob Fatu has. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jacob Fatu wasn't able to cross the border into Canada. But I did get this right. Unless they end up magically getting Jacob Fatu through the border and this becomes a 4-on-3, or maybe it becomes a 4-on-4. I did predict maybe the possibility, if this is a 4-on-4, of somebody like Brock Lesnar appearing. He is from Canada, kind of. He moved there. He became a nationalized Canadian, so maybe, I don't know. But I think I deserve full points here, right? But I do think that this was an obvious one. When I predicted this, it was right after Clash at the Castle. And if you remember, after the Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles I Quit match, Solo Sikoa and the entire Bloodline came out to try and take out Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton and Kevin Owens came out to even out the odds. So I figured it just made sense to do that. A lot of people thought that it was just going to be Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, but I don't think that we were ready for that yet, and I still don't think that we're ready for that. It could happen at SummerSlam, it could happen further down the line, but I'm glad that I at the very least got this right. Here's a funky one that I tried to predict. I thought that we were going to get a United States Championship match on this show. We ultimately ended up getting an Intercontinental Championship match, but in the lead up to Clash at the Castle, I thought that we were already setting this up. I thought that this is the route we were going to go, of Logan Paul, LA Knight, as well as Carmelo Hayes in a triple threat match for the United States Championship. This still could happen, maybe at SummerSlam, because these 3 are still kind of embroiled in some weird love triangle. Well, it's not really a love triangle, it's more like a love duo between LA Knight and Logan Paul, and Carmelo Hayes is trying to third wheel himself into this. So that is still happening, but I don't know if it will materialize into an actual triple threat match. If anything, I could see it materializing into a #1 contendership match between Carmelo Hayes and LA Knight, and winner goes to SummerSlam. I just didn't think that Logan Paul or LA Knight or Carmelo Hayes were going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, because I thought that the people that were going to be involved in the ladder match were going to be people that were a bit more directionless. Meanwhile, these 3 were at the very least telling a story that could end up in something down the line, like LA Knight and Logan Paul at SummerSlam, and Carmelo Hayes potentially sneaking himself in there to make it a triple threat. But as it turns out, both LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes ended up being in the Money in the Bank ladder match, while Logan Paul was eliminated from contention from being in the Money in the Bank ladder match by LA Knight, because we did have a triple threat on SmackDown. It was just a triple threat between LA Knight, Logan Paul, and Santos Escobar, not Carmelo Hayes. I do think that we'll still get to see all 3 of these guys on the show, because we do have LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes in an actual match, but I have a feeling, a very strong feeling, that Logan Paul is gonna make his way across the border to Canada, and he's going to cost LA Knight the match, thus setting up our match at SummerSlam between LA Knight and Logan Paul. But as it stands, I was entirely off on this.
This is it. I remember seeing
this.
Oh my God, no way.
Off the top
Oh, the production of this is genuinely fantastic. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, dude, this match is great. That, folks, was a preview of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, which is available exclusively over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at the very first ever Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 21. We're looking at an indie classic between Walter and Will Ospreay. We'll also be looking at the debut of The Fiend Bray Wyatt against Finn Balor at SummerSlam 2019, and the criminally underrated Fatal 4-Way match at SummerSlam for the Universal title between Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, and Samoa Joe. You're going to be getting these watch-alongs and more, like the Raw review, SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early, all over on patreon.com/SantiZap. We unfortunately cannot show these on YouTube. It is impossible. The only place to get the watch-alongs is on Patreon. So come check it out. It'll be the top link in the description or the link that's in the pinned comment. I think that you're going to like it, even if you just try it out for 1 month. All right, back to the video. Here were my predictions for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and I got a couple of the contestants right, so let's talk about those. I did predict that Chelsea Green, Tiffany Stratton, and Lyra Valkyria were all going to be in this match, and I was correct about that. I didn't think that the WWE could possibly leave Chelsea Green, being from Canada, out of this match. And on top of that, she's just such a perfect Weasley heel to be in this match. And on top of that, because of the type of character that she is, she was immediately considered a favorite. So if you want to create drama and you want to create the allure of maybe misdirection, you had to have somebody like Chelsea Green in this match. And then on top of that, you have the two dominant youngsters in Lyra Valkyria and Tiffany Stratton, who are just making waves in the WWE, and they are just so perfect to be in this match because they're young enough to be the ones to take the crazy spots and do the nasty bumps. We have Lyra Valkyria, who's already being trusted in major PLE matches like the final for the Queen of the Ring, and Tiffany Stratton, who's already been in a PLE championship match. It just made a lot of sense. And on top of that, Money in the Bank is really about setting up the future feuds of the WWE, and right now in the women's division, nobody embodies the future more than Tiffany Stratton and Lyra Valkyria. So I'm glad that these three are in the match and that I predicted them correctly. I am a little bit surprised with what they ended up doing with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, because I predicted that they were going to be in this match, because after losing the tag titles at Clash of the Castle, I thought that they were going to go in a more singles route. And I was kind of right, because they were both in Money in the Bank ladder match qualification matches, and neither of them won. In the most recent episode of SmackDown, the day before Money in the Bank, it was announced that they're still a tag team, that they're still going to be going after tag team gold. They called their shot against the Unholy Union, so I guess they're still a tag team. I really thought that they were going to go their separate ways, but I guess not. So we're still going to see them in the tag team division, which is good for the tag team division, but I do think it's going to leave a big void in terms of the main event scene to not have them. But yeah, shocking that they didn't make it, even though they were in contention to qualify. And then there's Dakota Kai. I was so certain that this was the year that they were going to have Dakota Kai in a PLE match where she wasn't part of a tag team. I thought they were going to pull the trigger on it. She was in a qualification match. She had the great moment on her stream where she was vulnerable and emotional, telling people that this is what she wants, that she wants to have her own PLE moment. To me, the moment was perfect, and the crowd and people online are so behind Dakota Kai right now that I thought they were going to pull the trigger and give her this moment at Money in the Bank, and it just didn't end up happening. The ones that did make it onto this match that I didn't predict were Zoe Stark, who was incredibly directionless when I made this video. She was part of the tag team division, and it just really wasn't going anywhere. I didn't think that they were going to pull the trigger on her having potentially another major singles run. I also didn't predict Io Sky, I should say, because I didn't think that they were going to put somebody who'd already won it in the match, because I don't think that anyone predicts Io or anybody to go back-to-back Money in the Banks, because that hasn't happened in so long. And I also didn't predict Naomi, who I thought was going to lose her qualification match. So I went 50% on my predictions on this, I guess. Now on to the men, and I was so wildly off here, it's not even funny. The only ones that I got right were Andrade and Jey Uso. Jey Uso being the guy that was on the poster for the show, so I figured it was a given that he was going to be in the match, and Andrade being so directionless but also so talented that to me it just felt like a foregone conclusion that he would be in a match like this. I also predicted Ludwig Kaiser, and they were doing these hype packages and vignettes saying that Ludwig Kaiser was calling his shot to be in Money in the Bank, and I thought he would have been perfect for it because he would have been a really interesting winner going into a show like Bash at Berlin. But not only that, he wasn't in any of the qualification matches, he didn't qualify, and he got injured, so he was never really even in contention. Santos Escobar lost his qualification match to LA Knight, and then we have Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker, who, do I get points here? Because they do have a match on the show for the Intercontinental Championship, but I had them being both here on a match for the Money in the Bank briefcase. So I only correctly guessed 2 of the 6 here, but I did predict 2 of the ones that are wrong to be on the show, who are on the show, Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. Do I get points for that? 2 of the guys that I couldn't predict to be on this match, I predicted were going to be in the US title match in Carmelo Hayes and LA Knight, and for some reason, I didn't even think of Chad Gable potentially being in this match, who ultimately did qualify for this. So this is a major blunder. I was so off, it's borderline embarrassing. But hey, if you want to cut me some slack, give me some points for at least predicting that that Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn were going to be on the show. And here's the last one. I predicted that Drew McIntyre was going to win the World Heavyweight Championship and that Jey Uso would cash in on him and once again screw him over and continue to lead him down this spiral of woe is me, everything bad always happens to me. And I kind of like this because it's poetic, because Drew McIntyre never got the comeuppance that he wanted on Jey Uso all of those months ago. And it would have been yet another Bloodline member screwing him over, just like all the way back at Clash of the Castle 2022. And I wouldn't have put it past it to have CM Punk or AJ Lee be involved in this. You got to remember, this is before CM Punk was destroyed by Drew McIntyre, so it was a possibility. But now I don't think that we see Punk on this show. But obviously, this can't happen. It's not impossible that Drew McIntyre walks out of the show with the World Heavyweight Championship, though. He could win Money in the Bank, and he could cash in against Seth Rollins or Damian Priest, whoever wins there. So I don't know, maybe that could happen. All right, folks, that's the review of my mostly terrible predictions. But let me know if you want me to do these sort of review recaps for any predictions video that I do. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.